Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our webinar on the Master in Finance program at Bentley University. We have with us someone who's a longtime friend who knows everything you need to know about this program, Sean Ferguson, who is in the house. Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. Thanks so much for having me.
Sean is a world traveler, loves Asia, is about to go off on a 6 week tour. But before he does that, he's going to share the details of their Master in Finance program, which, is the #1 master's program ranked by the Financial Times in the United States. So, Sean, who is this program for?
This is a pre-experience program, an early career program for folks who are really starting out trying to solidify their foundation in a career in finance. As you know, our history in Bentley has been built around finance and accounting, and we've placed most of our alums in that space at the grad and undergrad level. And it's an exciting time for us here because when we think of our program, we think about we're bringing finance, but we're also bringing technology and career outcomes together. We want our students to be able to support strategic problem solving, but then the applied use of technology and AI. This year, we just launched a new track, a STEM track with our fintech concentration path in finance. And then we've also launched a wealth and financial management path in the program. And this goes along with our other STEM path in finance analytics. And so this is a great foundational start point for someone in their early career. So you could be someone who maybe majored in finance and want to defer the opportunity costs of later in your career waiting to get a graduate degree, or you could be someone who's coming from a liberal arts background and wants to get that technical grounding so you can get a more traditional corporate finance role. And so it supports a range of people. And then we also see recent graduates of people who have just completed their degree and want to do this part-time on the early stage in their career because maybe their employer pays for a benefit. And so there's lots of different avenues that you can take in this program. I think it's super compelling for international students as Boston's a super diversified, innovation-rich economy, and so with big corporations, but also early stage companies, depending on what your taste is, and with the venture community continuing the burgeoning and growing venture community here. It's like third in the U.S. for venture investment after New York and the Bay Area. It's an exciting time to be in finance in Boston.
Now, Sean, you're Vice President of Strategy and Innovation at Bentley. And I wonder if you might just share some of the more innovative elements of this particular program. One thing that struck me is how customizable it is to your individual interests.
Yeah, for sure. So for us, in my role as VP of Strategy and Innovation at Bentley, I'm really responsible for growth and transformation. And when we think about that, we try to make sure our products and programs are as accessible as possible. So all of our courses are digitally enabled. So like if you're working, have a high demand job, you can take any of our courses online in a hybrid format. But then the other thing, we like about our program is this year we recently hired Professor Roman Beck, who joined us. He used to be the head and founder of the European Blockchain Institute. So we have new like blockchain and cryptocurrency oriented courses in our program. Our fintech program classroom, our fintech courses have AI enabled coursework and for people who are looking to do that part of their career. Also we teach people about, data driven decision making using this. So we see this course as there's the producers of the data, which is at this level. And we think the role of this program is to give you the technical tools, be it from AI, blockchain, emergent technology, that you can, take information and package it for the executive level to make the strategic decisions. And so those are some of the elements that really stand out in our program. Um, the thing that we also see is that we kind of position people to work in the financial services industry, tech, and health and life sciences industry. So our partners really look out to us for people who have that kind of awareness and point of view in the industry.
So there are four specialized tracks: traditional finance, fintech, financial analytics, and then financial planning and wealth management.
Yep.
So pretty much you cover the whole waterfront in terms
Mhm.
of finance and what you can do with this degree. The other thing that I think is kind of cool is you have a multi-million-dollar trading room,
Yeah.
and so students can be part of this Bentley investment group, which
Mhm.
literally invest a portion of the university's endowment. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we have a $2.5 million fund that it's called Big, the Bentley Investment Group, right? And so, and they, do typical kind of trade analysis, equity analysis on where we should invest and move, and invest elements of our portfolio. This is the kind of thing that we've been known for as an institution, is providing that kind of experiential, kind of practical and applied learning so students can hit the ground running. So while we are great at providing these kind of theoretical underpinnings in the curriculum, we also give students a chance through, venues like the Trading Center or experiential projects throughout the program. So, that and students are always, when they go through the interview process, employers are always most intrigued about their experiences with these kind of projects.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that's kind of cool is the flexibility because you have two tracks that you can complete in as little as 9 months or
Mhm.
15 months, and then two tracks that are 12 to 15 months. And I'm assuming that allows you to, if you're obviously working, to alter the pace of the program, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things we've prided ourselves on, providing flexibility for people to complete the program at their pace, particularly working professionals. Um, you know, for a lot of folks, doing much more, if you're working, doing much more than one or two courses can be a bit challenging. But there's also the flexibility if you want to get done in 12 months or less, it's not a problem as well, because, finance is one of our biggest programs here at the institution. So there's always a wealth of courses available to you. So yeah, so it's a great flexible program with, and I think the other thing too is that not only do we have like your traditional research faculty, we also have practitioners who also bring perspective into the classroom as well, that I think will help students hit the ground as they enter the workplace, right?
Yeah, in fact, the program director, I mean, I was looking at his bio, Florin Morrison.
Yeah.
And man, he's got a really impressive background. He's been with Blackstone. Before that, he developed trading strategies for a startup hedge fund. He's worked for McKinsey. He's worked for Sanford Bernstein, Citigroup, and Robertson Stevens. This guy has a wealth of experience, and he is your program director.
Yeah, Florian is amazing. He is literally, like, we joke, I think he has a PhD in nuclear engineering, so we joke he's literally a rocket scientist, right? And one of the most brilliant, people who has ever worked. So he got his PhD from MIT, so not in finance. And one of the trends that his PhD is in engineering, and one of the things we're seeing in Wall Street and other places is that they are, recruiting more and more people with these kind of technical mathematical backgrounds into the banking roles. And I think what's great about us here, we still, you know, we have this kind of traditional finance foundation, but with the analytics, with the fintech, with a PhD in engineering from MIT leading the program, our students get the kind of experience that would still make them relevant for bankers, asset management firms, et cetera. So it's a very rigorous technical kind of experience that they're going to get here. And Florian, he is at the forefront of kind of leading us through this direction to make sure our students are, competitive in the marketplace.
And I was looking at the employers for your graduates, and it's really an impressive group of companies. Fidelity, of course,
Mm-hmm.
State Street,
Yep.
Longfellow Investment Management, but then the tech firms that you mentioned, Boston Scientific, Analog Devices. Um, even Stanley Black and Decker,
Yeah.
so people are landing very well out of the program.
Yeah, we're excited about our placement outcomes here. It's a as I mentioned before, it's a great environment. It's a highly diversified economy here in Boston. And I think we're also, tech and pharmaceutical life sciences space are emerging industries. Boston is, people may argue, but we think of it as the global life science hub and leader here. There's been tremendous partnership between industry and the government to make Boston a leader here. We're also trying to position ourselves as an AI leader here, and it makes sense with all the, research university powerhouses here. And then it translates into the kind of entrepreneurial community and the early stage community. And so it's really a fantastic place for people here. We've got students. I was just talking with a student this weekend who's trying to enter into the venture capital space from here. And so I didn't have an appreciation of how great of a town Boston was for a student getting their master's or MBA, but I would say it's second to none.
It's a great town with a lot of young people and obviously a lot of universities, which make it fun to be in. And it is one of America's greatest cities, let's face it. Um, so I wonder, from your perspective, there are probably people out there who are kind of interested in finance, but they don't know a lot about it. And you even mentioned that because this is a pre-experience program, you will take people who have not had any exposure to finance before. So I'm wondering, I'm trying to put my feet into their shoes and thinking, what would they want to know? And one of the
Yeah.
things I think that they would want to know is, can I do this? In other words,
Mhm.
if I haven't had a background at all in finance,
Mhm.
is it a is it really hard to get a master's?
No, we have like a few foundational courses depending on the track that you may choose in the program. So I think like for the masters in analytics, right? The track for financial analytics, you'll need to have taken calculus. So if you've taken it beforehand, you're well on the way. And so if you're a student and you're in your junior or senior year still thinking about it, I would strongly recommend you taking calculus because that would help position you for success when you get here. I think the other thing is, um, you know, we have designed this program for people who are looking to kind of enhance their employability, right? So there are support, mechanisms, and I mentioned the foundation classes so that you can be successful from here, right? And so it's totally manageable. One of the things that we're embarking on as an institution is finding, non-business school partners to do 4+1 programs in the future, for students who may come from liberal arts backgrounds and creating paths for them to, easy apply to our programs, right?
Right.
So if you knock out, your basic econ and your calculus and that kind of thing, you're well on your way to being prepared for the MSF.
That's great. So, from your perspective, how can students think more broadly about their career direction? I think there are a lot of people who are liberal arts grads, for
Mm-hmm.
example, who, they majored in English or political science because they had some sort of interest or passion in it. And then they're about to graduate and they know that it's much more difficult to get a job today because employers want people who are job ready and contribute from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So how should they be thinking about this?
Well, I think, people should think about their liberal arts degree as an asset, right? And so we were having a cabinet meeting a couple of weeks ago. We hired a new dean for our arts and science faculty, and she was pointing out an article that talked about the people who were the most resilient during economic downturns had educational backgrounds that were most divergent, right?
Mm,
So if you had a major in finance and then a minor in something that was closely adjacent to finance, you didn't do as well. But if you had a major in political science and a graduate degree in finance, those people tend to be more resilient and durable during, financial crisis and economic downturn. So I think what I would recommend to people is that's a part of your story, and I think it gives you a little bit more dimensionality as you talk to employers about your ability to contribute in the firm because sometimes in these technical undergrad roles, they can be very narrow in their scope. And as we move into a world of, there was there was this report we saw, and it was talking about the skills of today and the skills of the future. We cite this report a lot. And while, AI and IT skills have moved up the ranks, right? These two top skills were problem solving and strategic thinking, right? And those
Right.
skills are not technical, those are kind of non-domain specific. And I think those kind of skills are a byproduct of liberal arts education, right? So if you can kind of get, you know, convey that to people, right? And when you're in a poli sci class, or if you're in some other class where you're kind of having to write a position paper on why or why not, that is very strategic and analytical from a thinking standpoint. If you pair that with the technical skills, you're really much more well suited for success than someone who only has the technical skills and only has the liberal arts skills. And so, and what we try to do in a lot of our career workshops is help you kind of tease that out, in your pitch, how you do your storytelling. We have this, career curriculum where we start with, all right, what's the career choice? Then how do we tell our story? Then how do we network and source opportunities? And then, the preparation and the interviewing and the negotiation and offer securing. But it's really about your story. And sometimes I think early career people are insecure about, what they bring to the table. And what we
Mm.
try to do is help our students have confidence about that story. And in the admissions process, you'd be surprised. The more unique your profile is, like our philosophy with scholarship is the more scarce your profile is relative to the pool of applicants, the stronger your potential for scholarship is, right? And so this could be a differentiator more than you think, right?
Oh,
Not
yeah, you
being
want that
like,
diversity in
yeah,
crafting the class. Yeah.
exactly, right? So,
So one of the things, Sean, I always like to do when I visit a campus is to go out for a drink with students.
right.
And if I were able to do that at Bentley with students in your master's in finance program, what would they tell me about the program? What do they like best? What are the things that will endure with them from this experience well after they graduate?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is our community amongst our alums at Bentley. They're routinely on campus to speak about current events, trends, and that kind of thing. They're super supportive, and so you get this kind of validation and perspective that is, you know, makes you really feel comfortable in the learning that you're getting right now on campus. I think the other thing that students would probably say is that we were trying to, support a really kind of create a really supportive environment for people to be the best versions of themselves, right? And since our new president came on 5 years ago, we never are status quo, right? We're always enhancing the programs. Like, so we just added this the fintech major and the wealth management, and so we're always looking to innovate in the curriculum and ways that we support students. One of the things that we just recently launched this fall was this program on is the non-technical side of the technology industry, right?
Hmm.
And so how do you work in this space? And so we partner with this entity that brought folks from the Googles, the Facebooks, the Microsoft to talk about how would you manage your career in this organization? What are the things that you have to do in order to get people to notice you to work in these kind of fields? And so we're trying to do more of that kind of, not just in the classroom preparation, but things that prepare you to get the job, but then also hit the ground running after you start the job. And so
Right.
this kind of continuous improvement mindset is much more fundamental to who we are as an institution right now.
Right. So students love the innovation that comes with that, and they love the
Mhm.
sense of belonging and the welcoming that
Yep.
attitude that they have. I
Yep.
wonder what employers think about your graduates. What do they most appreciate?
I think, our graduates are known for rolling up their sleeves, hitting the ground running and not having, a sense of entitlement, right? People, uh, the Bentley brand is really built around kind of, they're kind of production ready as soon as they go into the workforce, right? And low drama kind of uh, business school graduates, which is, not always the case, right?
Yes.
So
Very practical.
yeah,
You're gonna
practical
you're
and
gonna get a
technically
good
defensive.
day's work out of these folks.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
In terms of some recent placement data, what does the picture look like overall for a graduate of the program?
well, yeah, so we're really excited about that. In the most recent data, we were at 98% placed, and I think we're around $80,000 at graduation. There's a lot of hubbub about the role of AI in entry level jobs, but we haven't seen that as much here. And I think, business school and the role of business, and we see this in some of our employer surveys, is really about figuring out what are the solutions that can be AI can be used for. So creating value and that kind of thing. Where some programs have struggled, like in some of the engineering programs, it's really hit there because it's kind of the technology below the hood, right?
Right.
But where Bentley is, we're kind of above the hood. So we're using technology to create innovative products, or we're using the technology to transform the business. And this is an interesting stat. I was at a conference earlier this summer. It was at the Qatar Economic Forum, and they were one of our alums, Marcelo Claure. He was talking about the parallels between AI and the internet era. And so right now, everyone's running into the, you know, investment in infrastructure and that kind of thing related to AI. And one of the things he pointed out, like, well, maybe, 70% of the initial investment in the internet was, focuses on infrastructure, maybe 20% on software, and maybe 20% or the rest on the value add of the internet,
Mm.
right? If you look at the value going forward, 70% of the value is on the application of the internet, right? It's not on the hardware, it's not on the software side, right? So if you think about like the Mag 7, right? Those platforms are not they're not the backbones of the internet. They're the ones that extract the value from the internet for the shareholder, right? And so we feel like we're on the kind of value add side of technology, not just the kind of black box beneath the surface technology. And that's where we differentiate as an institution.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing here is I think a lot of companies are still struggling to figure out how to effectively deploy AI for
Mm-hmm.
competitive advantage. So to
Exactly.
the extent that you have AI in your program and you're teaching students
Mm-hmm.
to use the right AI platforms to get the right result, I would think that that would only enhance, the desirability of your graduates in the workplace at this moment for sure, right?
Absolutely. And our coaches, our AI programs at Bentley have been designed in tandem between I know this is a finance interview, but our AI paths and STEM majors they have been joint efforts between the CIS department and our philosophy department and the arts and sciences. So if someone in the liberal arts world is like, hey, where do I fit in? And you might fit in an AI path at Bentley. But in addition to kind of thinking about the technical elements of AI, CIS is really about the application. But then the philosophy department is there is to help people think about the ethical deployment of AI, to help align it with the values of an organization. Or we do a lot of work internationally. Does it align with the values of a particular cultural context? And so we think these kind of things help distinguish us as well, right?
I'm also thinking that, AI, what it will do in finance is get rid of some of the drudgery of entry
Mm-hmm,
level jobs and allow people to be more productive and frankly
mm-hmm.
more creative, which is an important element of being successful in finance.
Yep, yep. No, totally. I think you're spot on with that. I also think the people who are best equipped to manage it are. It's going to be like maybe this audience won't understand, but it's going to be like spinach for Popeye, right? It's going to be one of those things that is going to make the stronger even stronger. The human who's the best at it, or who can think about how to use it to scale up their impact, is going to have the most success professionally.
Now, obviously, this is a time, it's uncertain time. When you think about it, there's always a time when things are not always necessarily stable, but things are dynamic and changing rapidly. AI is part of that, but also government policy in the US,
Hmm.
maybe sending out messages that international students are not welcome here. What I
Hmm.
want you to do is explain how important international students are to your school and your program, and how the messages that might be coming out of Washington and filtering in local newspapers all around the world is not exactly how it's going to be when you come and you study in the US.
Yeah, no, that is a great point. And John, I've been in this business for a while. In 2016, when I was over in Asia, for the first couple of years, we really benefited in Asia from kind of the noise about what was going on around immigration and visa policy. And so we saw great enrollments in my schools in, Hong Kong and Asia. It's like Asia is the future and that kind of thing. But after the dust started to settle, it wasn't as draconian and as bad as, maybe the popular press had made it, and the market shifted back to America. And why did the market shift back to America? It's an incomparable labor market, right? The salaries abroad are at best 80% of that of the US. And then the long term upside, nowhere else in the world can, kind of match that. The
Very
innovation,
true.
the innovation culture of the US is second to none. So if you have a big idea, there's no place in the world that provides relative equal access to any culture. America really believes in the big ideas. And so I think that's what makes it really, really appealing to come here to go to school. And then when we look this year, then this is, we were expecting, like, given the geopolitical tensions between, the US and some other nations, I'll use China as an example. I don't think any of our Chinese students got denied a visa, to come to the program. Where we saw denials in students was maybe there were situations where their financial ability to get here was the problem. And so one of the
Right.
ways for us to fix that in the visa process is the recognition that we might need to be a little bit more aggressive financially in order to bridge the gaps and ensure that our international students have the financial wherewithal to come here, be here in a legal, productive way. And so we're bullish about that. So we're planning to, be a little bit more aggressive on the scholarship side so that we can make sure what we think is a transformational product offering is available to our international students. And I was just looking at our numbers. Our spring intake that we have, where our international numbers are up 50%, and it's really really early for the fall, but our international numbers are up. Our applications, at least, who knows what that will result in enrollment, but it's up over 100% as well. So,
Oh,
so I think people are paying attention to what happened in prior cycles, and I think there's still a good bet on the U.S. For the dreamers and for people who have the big ideas. And so we welcome and embrace them to come on. I'm a product of immigrants. My dad is from Jamaica, so I'm always pulling for folks, to come here and pull themselves up and really make an impact.
and the other thing is, Boston is a very welcoming city. It's really a global city. You have people from all over the world in Boston, in
Hmm.
part because of that university culture in the town, which makes people incredibly welcome,
Hmm.
from all lands.
Absolutely.
And then, there is optional practical training, right? That which basically, if you have a STEM designated degree and one of your tracks is STEM designated, it allows you to come and work here for 3 full years,
Hmm.
and gives you other options for applying for visas and that are more permanent, obviously.
Yeah, the STEM path, with the 3 years with OPT really helps, solidify the ROI for someone and takes, some risk out of the process for them, and gives them that, American perspective, because, the U.S., particularly for business school, the U.S. business school um, approach is well regarded across the world, particularly in Asia, and in these kind of places. So not only are you making yourself super relevant for the U.S. market, you're making yourself. If you're a candidate from India, you can go to Hong Kong or Singapore, right? If you're someone from mainland China. Based on my experience, we've placed people in Europe and Southeast Asia, right? So and the schools that have been most successful of this are people who have this kind of U.S. centric kind of curriculum.
I also think, that in terms of finance, the US is really at the top. I mean, if you want to learn finance, you want to practice finance, you want to experience what it's like
Mhm.
coming out of the program, working in the US for even just a few years before you go back to your home country or somewhere else is incredibly valuable to you because, you know, this is where it's at. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's despite the rumors of the U.S.'s demise, right? Like so much of business is denominated in dollars. It's still the world's reserve currency, and it's one of the most productive economies in the history of man, and it's still on that arc. And so there's nowhere better to be, um, to be financially from a career standpoint.
And the sophistication of the markets here is second to none.
Yep.
And you're going to learn a lot of that in some of the finance tracks, obviously.
Exactly, exactly.
So let's break it down. How many intakes do you have?
So we take students all year round, right?
Okay.
So in our Masters of Finance program, we have some students who will come in the spring, right? And that'll be maybe about 15 or so students, and you can just slot right in. Most of those students are part-time. We probably this year will have a little bit more of international students who may not have got their visa appointment in time, so they'll be coming in this spring batch. Then we'll have about 35 to 50 coming in the fall, and so and then those will be from outside. And we also have this advanced standing program where, in addition to students who are non-Bentley students, for students who are graduates of the Bentley program, maybe someone was in a marketing major in undergrad, they can do a direct path into our finance program. We also have this similar kind of path with the Masters of Accounting as well. And so we'll probably take about 90 of those students in a given year. So it's a pretty robust class size when you put everyone together at one point in time. And what the value of that is, that gives you more elective choice and flexibility. And so I think the scale that we have here, I think, is a distinguishing factor as well from a choice perspective.
Right. And then you have 10 courses.
Yep.
And I guess among the electives, half of it is in electives, right?
Yeah. About, I think maybe it's four out of the 10 courses are electives. And one of the things we charge by the course, so there's nothing precluding students from taking more if they want additional coursework. And so we tend to try to look at the 10 as a floor as opposed to a ceiling, right? And
Right.
and because we offer classes at all times around, and if you realize you're going to this employer and it's more on the capital market side as opposed to the corporate finance side, you still have the flexibility to take more courses here. So
Yeah, and if you don't know anything about accounting, finance, you might take some pre-programmed foundation courses too, I imagine.
exactly, exactly. And so it's a pretty robust, curriculum with a lot of flexibility. Uh, you know, we've got courses in computational finance, derivatives, in natural processing language for investment. So super technical, but super relevant at the same time.
Now, you mentioned some online learning earlier, Sean, and I wonder, can you take some courses entirely online, or is it a mix, or how does that work?
So for our domestic students, they could, in theory, do everything online. The expectation for our international students is that they have to be in class in person, right? And so, uh, so, so yeah, and so we have, we built this really strong capability of online during COVID, and it's just kind of stayed on. And the students have loved that flexibility that it's brought to them. And so yeah, it's really like particularly our part-time working professional students, they love it. They can either come to class or do hybrid. All of our classes are hybrid enabled, and so that's a differentiator I think for Bentley as well.
Yeah, so you have a lot of flexibility here. Number one, you can change the pace of it. Number two, you can start almost any time. And number three, you can go in between hybrid, online, in person in some
E-
cases.
Exactly, exactly. So if you're on an interview, you have to go out of town for that interview, you can still take your classes, right? So you can't use it as an excuse like you could back in the day, John.
True. Sean, you're making it awfully easy to get this degree. I will say that.
That's
But
that's the goal. Remove all the friction that we can.
so when you evaluate an applicant's ability to do the program, what are the kind of things you're looking for in a good applicant?
Yeah, I think for us, we don't want to, penalize you from what you don't have. We want to evaluate you on what you do have, right? And so, earlier we talked about liberal arts students. If you've demonstrated a level of expertise, excellence in your domain, even if it wasn't in a business space, we strongly take that in consideration. The other thing that we do is we recognize internationally, not everyone internationally has had access to the Times Higher Ed or top QS schools, but we do recognize if you went to one of the best schools at your context, we reward you for that, and if you perform there, we reward you for that as well. This summer, we made some adjustments to how we evaluate scholarship to elevate that, right? So before it was just kind of based on these kind of global rankings alone. But then, like in some cases, depending on the scope, the mission of the institution, they're not able to participate in these rankings. But if you're like at the number one or top five school in your country, we still think that is a very strong marker for your ability to persist and succeed in our programs. The other thing that we also like is just to see um, work experience, right? Even if it's an internship, since it's a pre-experience program, or maybe you did some kind of research that was aligned with the direction that you wanted to go. If you
Mm.
did that at a high level of excellence, that's also helpful for the process because at Bentley historically we have put such care into making sure career outcomes are achieved. And a lot of times the best starting point for career success is the input, right? And so if someone we know can excel in a professional setting, it's kind of a predictor for their ability to excel in a professional setting down the road.
I also wonder about direction. So when you apply, do you need to know which track you're interested in, or
No,
can you start and then choose a track later?
No, you can definitely start and choose a track later. It works two ways. So it doesn't necessarily penalize you, but if you're able to articulate a clearer vision, it does help you from a scholarship standpoint because we're like, oh wow, this woman, she's super thoughtful about where she wants to go and that kind of thing. And so it strengthens her application. But it doesn't hurt you not knowing that because you can maybe get in and say maybe analytics is too um, is too mathematical in nature, and I wanted to go in fintech, because I want to be more solution oriented or something like that, right? And we recognize this is still kind of a discovery phase for people coming into the program, and so
Yeah.
the change isn't too stark, for people to do that and kind of change course while they're here.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, we know from research that the more you know
Mhm.
about what you want to do with a degree, the more
Yeah,
likely you are to be successful in doing it because,
yeah.
you have direction, you have an aim, and everything you do is focused around that, and it's just going to increase the likelihood that you'll get exactly what you want. And then when you go in and you're exploring, you're losing a little time, I think, to some degree.
Yep, exactly, exactly. It's like you've been in this business for a while, man.
Now, an important part of business school is networking.
Hmm.
And, there are a lot of people in, let's say, the more general degrees like MBA
Right.
or master's in management, where networking is almost in many cases assumed to be like, if not one of the key priorities of takeaways, the priority in takeaways. But in a specialty master's degree like this, what role does networking play and how do you help foster it?
Yeah, so for us, we're big believers in the network-based job search, right? Because what we want to do is, our approach to career management is we don't just want to get you the job, right? We want to provide you the skills so that you can fish on your own in the future and also prepare you to get your next job because, a big portion of people's career success, yeah, a portion of it is the first job, but the next piece is how they navigate into the next opportunity. So we provide alumni career services, later on, but we're also wanted to be we're working with employers to help them not just think about our graduates at graduation, but also at different stages of their career, right? And so, at a lot of the schools that I've been at, we've tried to be this honest broker for the various different stages, working professionals. And, one of the things we're trying to do is bring our whole portfolio together. And so we've launched programs, a professional MBA program. We're working on a program, for post experience master's in finance students, which people who would start this specialized version of this as at an early career would still have access to job opportunities that may come, when they're 3 years in their career, just like our post experience master students that we're planning on launching in the future as well, right? And so we want to do that, and networking is kind of foundational to that. And what we have is this saying we tell the students: there's a one letter difference between networking and not working. We at the beginning of the school year this year we had our career success summit, and we brought in Steve Dalton, who wrote the 2 hour job search to help people understand why the network based approach is kind of a timeless tool for your career
Mm,
management. Um,
yeah.
the other thing is, I just had a session with some of the students on Career Leader the other day to really help people understand their motivation, interests, what kind of cultures are the right fit for them, and that kind of thing from a career standpoint, and what careers work best with them, so that we can help them kind of tap into our network of alums, and get them in front of people because we're specialized in earlier career kind of struggle. They see networking as too instrumental as opposed to kind of laying a foundation for the future, and creating advocates who can help you at different points along the way. And so our philosophy on networking is really don't just do it because you want a job now. Do it because you're looking to, leverage this network for all kinds of things that you may need in the future from an advice perspective. Maybe a job will come out of it in the future. Maybe you'll actually help an alum in a way that you never could have anticipated more than they can help you, right? And so we try to breed this kind of holistic approach in networking and relationship building here.
Yeah, don't go into this thinking it's a transaction. Think of it
Yeah,
as a relationship that's going to benefit you over the long term.
exactly, exactly.
So, Sean, for those interested in the program and want to know more, or want to get into the application process, what's the best way to connect with your admissions and career services people?
Yeah, on our main webpage, we have graduate. Go to that drop down. There's the MS in Finance. Submit a RFI form, and we will set up a time with you to talk about the program, kind of assess your fit, coach you on what you need to maybe improve in your profile, or say, hey, you know what, you're game ready. You should apply right now. We're real hands on admissions team, and it's really consistent with like the intimacy that we have in our programs overall here for the MSF, and so. We're always looking for applications. I think our first deadline is in December. And so there's still plenty of time to make an impact. And what I always tell people is with scholarship, the most money is always in the earlier rounds. So if you want to get your
Totally right.
best share, let's get to that first deadline.
Indeed. And I have to say, I think the website on the program is really well organized, filled with lots of important information. So you should definitely check that out. And Sean, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yep, same here. Thanks so much, John.
All right. And for all of you out there, check it out. Bentley University's Master's in Finance. We've been speaking with Sean Ferguson, the Vice President for Strategy and Innovation at Bentley University. Check it out. This is
All
John
right.
with Poets and Quants.